Greetings, Kgopotso. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you, Dr. QQ?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So happy to have you here. Finally, I've been trying to get you on the show. Thank
Yeah,
God for
man,
technology.
it's been quiet the run around, but we're here now. Super excited,
Yeah,
man. Long overdue.
yeah. So let's just get on with this. A few ground rules. No drinking alcohol during the recording, please. I know you don't drink alcohol. You are heavenly sent like that. Um, listen, so we've got a culture here uh, where the previous speaker leaves a question for the next guest, ne? And a question that has been left for you is quite an interesting one. I don't know if I would be able to answer it, by the way. And that question is, what is the definition of happiness according to Kgopotso?
That's a good one. That's whoa. Hmm. I think for me, what defines happiness is inner peace. And I can go further with that by saying that getting to a point in life where I am one with me, whatever that is or whoever that is. One with me with my flaws, with my limitations, with my excellence, everything all beautiful and bad and in between, but finding contentment throughout all of that. Not necessarily anything or anyone external, it's everything internal, it's me. I will never be defined happy by the people around me or the things I have, things I've achieved. But I think my state of happiness is thoroughly and profoundly defined by the man in the mirror. When I look at him and where I'm at now in my life, when I look at him, I smile all the time. I'm
Hmm.
proud of the person he's become. I'm proud of the man he continues to become. I think more than anything, I just love how I love me. That makes me happy.
Okay, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful way of defining the term happiness as it relates to Kgopotso, by the way. And I guess the next question for me, related to that, is who is Kgopotso even? You are telling us this description. You're giving us this description, relating it to Kgopotso. But then, who is Kgopotso? I know that you are commonly known as Seth. Especially your listeners on radio know you as Seth. But who are you, bro?
My name is Kgopotso Seth Chawane. I'm 35 years old. I was
What?
born in, yeah, I was born in Mpumalanga in a small town called the Kamahala, but I grew up in another small town in Limpopo, Mokopane. That's where pretty much my entire life from when I was 3 until now. I'm the last born of 4 from my mom, the last born of 13 from my dad. I've been born into quite a very creative family. I grew up around music. I grew up around drama. I grew up playing basketball. Went to varsity. Studied law. Studied journalism. Fast forward, found myself in the entertainment industry as an actor currently. Found myself in the media industry also as a broadcaster, now news editor. Yeah, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a brother. I'm a friend. I'm a father. I'm someone else's man. I'm a son. Yeah, man. Overall, I'm just a chilled guy, man. I'm just a chilled guy who loves people, who loves seeing growth in other people. And yeah, man, like your ordinary kind of guy from next door.
That's beautiful. I never knew that you are from Bumalanga, by the way. We've been friends for so long. I
Yeah.
know you to be from Limbs. You've never mentioned anything about Mpumalanga. This is a shock
Maybe you were not
to me.
listening. You were not listening on that part of the story because there's no way I can find me and not bring that element up.
Yo, ngaze ngamubi emehlweni akho.
Nabantu manje, whoever's gonna be watching. We would fail
Umbuzo,
at friends like this if they were to ask you that question. There goes our trip.
ngiyaxolisa. Yobe. Mamela,
Ayizishiyele.
ayidlishi yena. Mamela, these are all my teachings, by the way. Kgopotso didn't know isiZulu when I met him moons ago, and now he even knows idioms. Uyakwazi ukusho izisho and izakha, and that's impressive. I think kudos to me. Kudos to me.
I'll let you have it.
You talk about law, you talk about journalism, you talk about the entertainment industry and the media industry as well. Uh, Tell me about that. Jeez, why so many things?
Okay, truth be told, when I started to pursue law, it was informed by a very heart sore moment or event in my life. Um, I think I was in grade 10 and 11, somewhere there, where my mother was a teacher. At the time, she had retired somewhere 2002, 2004. And there's just been back and forths with regards to her pension funds with the Department of Education. At some point, it dragged for over 4 or 5 years. At some point, she was declared dead while alive
What?
because some officials had somehow, because she went on ill health retirement. So they looked at whatever cause of illness was and they were like, this one's not going to make it until summer or whatever. So they declared her dead. And the system somehow seemed as though her pension funds were paid out, but not into her account and stuff. So every time she'd go back and make inquiries, then it raised red flags and probed investigations. So the only way for that case to be dismissed was if she was really dead. So there was
Yeah.
just those people um, headhunting her and stuff. But also, in the few times I visited the government employees pension fund offices with her, I saw how ordinary citizens, and these are government ex officials, when they go to those offices, they were not given the respect and treatment that they deserved for people that served the government for so long. And the only people who were given attention was lawyers when they walked in. And I would see them coming in on different days as to how much respect and treatment they're given, which is different from other ordinary citizens. And I thought maybe the only way I will ever help my mom solve this if I have that same kind of a status as a lawyer. That's when the law thing started for me. But when I came to varsity 2008 to register, the first thing that I registered for or wanted to register for was journalism and media. But for whatever reason, I found myself with my second option being law. I was like, well, whatever. Either of them, I want to do them. That's when it all started with law. But halfway through, I loved it. I graduated. I was in the industry for almost, 10 years now. And in the 10 years, I got to realize that, nah, this is really not who I am because my reason for pursuing law was now self resolved. I was like, nah, this is not for me. But fortunately, I still had the music happening. I still had other things on the side happening. I still had radio also. So I just gave myself into those spaces because I told myself that if ever I'm going to die tomorrow, I must die having at least lived 99.9% of my life in potential, right? So that's when it started being in the radio industry. I got bitten by the media bug, the radio bug, and I really found my voice through it. And I pursued a qualification in that as well and graduated top of my class. Yeah, man, and I've been in it ever since. Then the acting thing happened a bit later on in life as well. I didn't know I could act until I was in front of the camera. I was like, oh, okay, so this too took classes there, and yeah, man, we're here.
Beautiful, beautiful. I know you to be in confession, by the way, to whoever is listening or watching. Kgopotso and I are friends, but you know how you would have people that you talk to about social matters, business, and he and I don't talk about professional stuff. So most of these things that he's sharing are quite new to me. So, we never do. We never do.
That's
And
good.
damn, Kgopotso, what sparked that love for journalism and media studies? Because I would think that you would be one that would go for that low career trajectory and see it
Yeah,
through.
yeah. I love the law. Let's put it out there. I really, really love the law. It's one of my greatest passions in life. I've been blessed with capacity and brains enough to find my way around the law and stuff. But in terms of my what I believe to be my purpose and the core of my existence has always been through storytelling. I consider journalism at one, it's a career, great, but it's a platform we use to tell stories. And I've always been um, one who is fond of real life storytelling, stories that matter.
Mm,
Um, and I could easily tell people stories through the radio medium that I had or been
mm,
exposed to or blessed to be part of. And I've seen just how powerful that space was in one helping me as an individual find my voice, and by so doing I was able to represent others who did not have theirs as yet.
mm,
I use that platform as a place for expression for people beyond me. um and I could see, one, I was thrown into a radio show that is predominantly current affairs, politics, and I didn't like those things. And I had to find a way to be able to be in that space, enjoy it while I execute what is expected of me. And, people would come into the show with problems with some government officials, top people, politicians, and it is a way it isn't how when I would call them and tell them who I am and where I'm from, that I'll get an audience from them. How people's lives were positively impacted through the work that I did. And I thought, hey man, this is it. If anything, I'm here for the people. I've always been for the people. But those spaces were quite limited in terms of who can access them, whose voice can be heard, and this politics everywhere. And with me, I was like, look, this is a voice God blessed me with, a platform God blessed me with. So I'm going to use it to the best of my abilities to make sure that I impact people around me. And yeah, man, that's where it all started. Sparked up that, and I thought, you know what? This is a space for me. I'm a storyteller. I think that's where the whole acting thing also came into play as well. Telling stories that matters. I think inspired by a quote by U Chimamanda.
that's my
That
girl.
yeah, when we listen to other people's stories, we begin to exist in bodies that are not ours.
Oh,
When we
yes.
tell other people's stories, we cause others to exist in bodies that are not theirs. And that's when I found the power of storytelling, good storytelling. So that's
Mm.
where it all started, I guess. More Spectre, brother.
That's beautiful. I think she also borrowed that from the book Alchemist by Paulo. Uh,
Apollo, yeah.
I, I
Apollo's
want to say
Apollo's
it right. I don't want to say Coelho. There's a correct pronunciation,
okay, we
but I've
we black and
forgotten what it is.
Apollo's
No, 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 no. You're Kgopotso. You're Kgopotso. You're not something else that I don't want to
yeah,
say.
but we South African, so Paulo's Coelho sounds right about
Oh,
fine
it's
for me.
Coelho is actually right. It's
Yeah,
Coelho,
Paulo Coelho,
Paulo
yes.
Coelho, because it's Brazilian. I think
Yeah.
she borrowed that quote from him or modified it
Um,
from Paulo because he says when we read literature, when we are absorbed in literature, we we experience spaces that we've never been to. We exist in people's bodies that we've never experienced,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
is
that's
quite
beautiful.
profound. And I love how she then takes it and
Yeah.
articulates it. She embodies it, in fact.
Yeah.
I love that about her. But then, Kgopotso, um, I can't keep up with you. It's just a number of things. And as I hear you talking, you
We
bring
have
in
all
new
the time.
things. You bring up new things. So angisazi ukuthi how am I going to frame this? You also mentioned you talk about music. You talk about radio. Radio,
Yeah.
I knew. Music, uh, not so much. I knew that you sing at church. And quite recently, I learned that you've recorded as well.
Yes. Where did
I
you get
didn't
that
know about
information?
that. And you just mentioned music, and I was like, "What?" I went
Yeah.
on what do you call this? Not Play Store, the green one. I went on that other streaming platform and I found your music, and
You're on a music
that for
fan.
me was a shock. Sorry,
Okay.
tell me about that. Tell me about your singing career. I'm not sure whether to call them careers or hobbies now, because all of them
Well,
are
it's
done in
definitely
a professional manner.
for me, man. It music. That's where it all started for me. Honestly, I come from a very musical family. Um, I was exposed to music from a very very young age. Um, I think it got intensified more when I got to varsity in 2008. I was the leader of the music at the SEO at TUT at the time. I got to work with some of the most renowned gospel artists in South Africa, KK, Mahalia, and, in some shows that were featured in. My sister is Mabongi, a very renowned gospel artist.
Mabongi
Yeah, I've been
who?
around. Oh yeah, bo. In 2018, 2017, I had my first live show in Pretoria. In 2018, 27 October, I had my first live recording, which I have not yet released. I featured the likes of Mabongi, Paul, Langeni, some couple of people. Um, I've, 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 I've done music, I think, longer than I've done any other thing in my life. I took a break from music in 2020 to focus on the acting and other video stuff. But yeah, man, I've always been a singer my whole life. I've always been a
Oh,
singer songwriter. Yeah.
is there a reason why I didn't know about this as your friend? Actually, don't respond to that. We're not gonna do it on air. We'll fight about it privately. I'm gonna go back to your actually, yeah, your career now.
Yeah.
You as Velake in Generations. One of
Many
the
faces. Yeah.
so
Many faces. Yes.
you are many faces, but I'm very familiar with Zwelake. So I want to go to Zwelake, by the way. And
Okay.
oh, Kgopotso, tell me, can you and I have a sharing moment right now?
Let's
What
go.
are the similarities between Seth, that is the real you, and Zwelake?
That's a good. That's a good one. When I was doing characterization, developing a character as well, like normally part of my process would be, you know, the separation between me and the character, where I would list out similarities and differences between the two. And with Zwelake and Seth, they were like 100% worlds apart. And it is until now when you ask that specific question where I'm like, there's actually one thing that comes to mind that I believe they have in common. Um, in the midst of crisis, in the midst of danger, chaos, you name it, my response posture, as Kgopotso said, is always calm. Zolake has a dark soul, as I classify him, who called Inkabi, no sense of humor, whatever. But also in the midst of crisis, Zolake's posture of response is that of calmness and quite analytical. He's more of a thinker than a feeler in those moments. And I think those two, that I mean, Seth knows Zwelake, that is the one thing I think they have in common. But everything else, nah, Kgopotso is bubbly, he's loud, he's loving, he's a hugger. You would know this. He's he's a guy who would literally go to the ends of the world for you and back. He loves and protects those who Zwelake has no feelings, almost no feelings, no attachments, doesn't smile. Yeah, just ubandayo man. Just yeah, no, nothing. Worlds apart. Yeah,
Okay, okay. And by the way, again, he just mentioned that he's a hugger. Kgopotso and I used to fight quite a lot
oh yeah,
because he was always this person. He was always this person.
yeah.
When we first met,
And I
I
always say,
hated that.
and I always say I love you, and you say thank you. Yeah,
Uh, I mean, come on. I think I don't know. Yeah, but it's a thing outside KZN. People tell each other easily, "I love you, I love you, I love you." We can't even tell our mothers that we love them. But maybe before I move to my next point, Kgopotso, is this something that you do even with your own mom, your own family, your own brothers and
yeah,
sisters? It
yeah.
doesn't it feel awkward?
No. So my mom is a kisser when she greets
Oh,
you. Whether so if you were to go to my home with me, my mom and I would we kiss when we greet. She kisses everyone when she greets them. She would literally kiss you from day one she meets you as well. Because if uzozek ekaya through umtanake, naturally automatically now umtanake. Knows what how hi right. Um my brother, my late brother,
oh,
we had a very tight bond. Um He was the first man to tell me, I love you. He was the first man in my family to give me a kiss on the lip every time he greeted me or whatever type of the thing. So I
yeah.
was exposed to that. Yes, on the lips. And then my uncles, some so ekaya sinjalo nje, hi mwa, hi mwa. I think that's where my touchiness and this freedom of affection expression comes from, because ngiphuma kulowo muzi where out of nowhere, hi, I love you too, great, cheers, bye. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's very interesting. I don't know if my brother were to come and kiss me on my lips, I think I'll just give him a punch. No negotiations about that. Um, I have, however, tried to challenge myself. It's very easy for me to tell my friends that I love them now because it's something that I've been doing over the years. I easily tell people I love you, and I think I've gotten very I'm not sure if affectionate is the correct term to use in this case. Even with my mom, even though I don't tell her straight up that I love you, because she's gonna be like, "What's going on?" I
What
think
are you,
once
are
a
you
year.
dying?
I think once a year. Actually, I once told somebody that from home. I said I love you, and then they said, "Are you dying?" That was the response that I got because it's unheard of to get somebody telling you that they
Yeah,
love you if they're a family member. From
I
where I
agree.
come, that is. But outside that, I see it in the Eastern Cape. I saw it in Free State. I see it when I'm in Gauteng. Everywhere, literally everywhere. And it's very easy
Yeah.
for my friends to say, I love you. Just earlier, a friend of mine, Kolani, was telling me, I love and appreciate you a lot, my friend, you know, but you would never hear such from back home. But I think it's something that we all need
I
to
think I need
learn
to move to
and
KZN.
practice.
I need to move to KZN. Yeah, I mean, I converted you, so yeah, it's you and a few
I
others.
was in your space. Let's talk about this now. I was in your space, so there was no way that I was going to harm you. You go there, you go around kissing and hugging men. They're gonna give you a
Not,
punch. Well, you
not
don't
around
kiss.
kissing
You
and hugging men.
sorry. No, no, no. This is with reference to your mom. She goes around kissing. You go around hugging. You guys are gonna lose whatever part of your body is easy to access at that time.
Yo, then KZN should move to Limpopo. At least it's better
You
there.
mean you mean men in limbs tell each other they love each other?
My friends and I do it. It's quite normal all the time.
I mean, I would
That's why.
expect Papa
That's
Penny
why
to do it.
when I'm exposed to particularly people from the Eastern Cape and EKZN, when we start saying I love you too," they're like, hmm. I'm like, wait, what is wrong with y'all? Because where I'm from, my boys and I'm like, I love you, bro, I love you too. It's so normal. I mean, if you go, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, I don't know.
I would expect Papa Penny to do it because he's just Papa Penny. Anyway, back to Zwelake. I've heard stories about the media industry. Surely you do know what people say in the streets in terms of support, in terms of entering the industry, the challenges that you guys encounter. I've got a lot of young people that tune into the Harvest Chronicles, which you are now a friend of. And a lot of them I've seen are moving towards being influencers. They're doing stuff on Instagram, TikTok, and whatever, with hopes of getting to where you are today. And I want to find out what challenges there are in your industry, the media industry.
Mm, A lot. Yo, it's a lot. You know, I think for some of us that are in, one question that is always painful to respond to is that one.
Mm,
Um, while it seems all rosy and glamorous and that, it's really not even close to that in the real
mm,
world. Um, it's difficult to penetrate an industry that naturally, has a lot of gatekeepers. Um, of late, those that have got quite a big following on social media, it's almost easy for them to access through because most channels are concerned about numbers and some to the extent of costing, choosing, sacrificing rather between talent and numbers, to allow people that are just naturally gifted to tell stories to do so. We are exposed to, rigorous, endless um, rounds of auditions upon auditions. And at times, you'd go to auditions, just for that to tick the box for whatever production company is having them. But already they have people in mind, right? And these are some of the people that, South Africa has grown fond of over the years. It could be veteran actors. And then when there's this other small roles that, but it's quite difficult to get into the industry. But what makes it somewhat a little bit easier, it is when you have an agent, but also you still need an agent that has got connections, that is known, and to be able to get briefs for you to come audition. Our type of work, it's unlike when you apply for umsebenzi, with your degree and whatnot. You go through one round of interview and then you secure a contract for as long as you can. With us, when you production in Pela, and then there's a new one coming up, and no matter how good you've been in all the other ones, you still have to be humble enough to get yourself back on the audition lines. Sometimes it
mm.
takes all day with it pansy, waiting for a chance to come and say, "Hey, let me try this out." Um, it's quite a very difficult, honestly, industry to penetrate because unlike industries that are more academically based, like you would need a degree to be a doctor,
mm,
probably you would need a degree to be a journalist or whatever. With us, if you have the talent, you can try your luck, and if it goes your way, you can secure the job or the role against somebody that has gone to school, you know. So it's a matter of if you're standing in front of a camera, are you able to deliver what is expected? Are you likable? Are you what they're
mm,
looking for and stuff? But ngiphinde ngithi kubantu, people think when you go through the TikTok route, mimicking this and that is acting. That, if for me, I'm sorry to say this, it's not acting because acting is not pretending that a reality exists. It's actually getting to a point where you cause your whole faculties in your body, your entire
mm,
being's faculties, to believe in this reality as if it's the true one, where you bring a fictional character to life. That requires training, that requires workshops, that requires taking classes. For one, um, anything that I have done in my life, I will not call myself an actor unless I've been certified as one. I will never call myself a journalist unless I'm certified as one. I've always believed in going to go to get the right kind of training for the industry or the work that I want to pursue.
mm,
So, abaqale lapho. Ask the questions I think they should be asking is, where can I find my acting academy or acting workshops? Who can you recommend as an acting coach? Because we pay, we pay the likes of Abo, Camila Waldman, who's a renowned performance coach. People pay, you know, money to be trained so that they are camera ready. When these auditions come, you don't go there not knowing. I think enye setback yileyo ukuba abantu bazothi ngiyakuthanda uku-actor, therefore ngifike laphana ngi-acte. And then
mm,
you wonder why the same faces are always on TV, because when we see a script, we know what to do with it because we've been trained. When you see a script, you just think, let me just memorize lines. We know what is required, we know what to look for,
mm,
how to bring a character into life. So those things, iqala lapho mfethu. People need to have an attitude to be taught first about the craft, learn about the business of the industry as well, because once bakuthatha kuba nezinto like ama-contracts that you need to understand. There's things like your rates. There's a global rate, there's a what rate. You need to know what does that mean, how is it impacting on me. There's regulations, there's things like royalties where we're talking, I'm gonna get it, I'm not gonna get it. There's a lot that you really need to just understand about the modern industry, more than just appearing on TV, and then walking around the streets and taking a few pictures. It's deeper than that.
mm.
I can
Wow,
unpack it the whole day if I have to. But yeah,
interesting, interesting. Whew, okay. Um, you have people that go to institutions like your UNISA, for instance, and then you have people that go to institutions like AFDA, I think. Is it
after yeah,
after?
yeah.
After. Yes. Uh, what is the distinction between the two institutions? And does it matter where one goes to?
I think to an extent it does. I mean, institutions carry different reputations in terms of the products they produce.
Mm,
I think there is a signature that EUKZN is known for. Uti, when we produce a type of, professionals within a particular discipline, this is where most companies seek out these people.
mm,
I've had the privilege of attending my open days as a actor to learn more about the type of disciplines and crafts they have there. After, what I love about it is it takes you straight into the industry in terms of the teachings. You do theory and practicals almost at the same time, and you're able to diversify in terms of its scope. Um, what else? Aboma TUTs and them, they also have their own, where you are exposed to script writing, you're exposed to directing, you're exposed to performance art as well. I don't think there is either that is more than the other, but in terms of what I've been exposed to so far, after in terms of how their programs are lined up, they literally prepare you for the industry because they don't only focus on a particular discipline. Bazothi ngoba wena uthi ufuna ukuba i-actor, then sokufundisa performance kuphela. They want you to, be an all-rounder as much as you can. So in your 3 years there, now it feels like I'm advertising for them, but in your 3 years after, you are exposed to performance. You are exposed to performance for both screen and theater, writing for both, producing for both, directing for both, and it's sound, lighting, colorism, and the colorist rather, you know, it's a whole thing where you're like, okay, this is what I want to be. This is what I want to be. What else with others? You'll be like, okay, I've done performance. I'm a master of performance, maybe musical theater, and then you'll still need to be trained for camera. You still need to be trained for this. It's yeah. It just depends on the curriculum, I suppose. But yeah,
So after is more like the private school, that rich kid
yeah.
of the
People
woolies
is
of
very expensive for a reason.
entertainment.
So yeah.
I have a friend who got a scholarship and studied through after. Her family never understood why she went for the entertainment industry, especially after she got such good marks. I think she got 6 or 7 distinctions in matric, and then got a scholarship, and she decided to go and do entertainment at after.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had hopes that she would go for law or medicine, but she went there. Now she's producing shows and she's always winning these categories for upcoming producers, and I think it's quite
Amazing.
fascinating.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about mentors. How does one identify them? Say, for instance, I'm now enrolled at UNISA or FADA, wherever I am lucky to be enrolled at. And now I want to acquaint myself with what happens in the field. How does one identify role models or mentors?
I always say this. Um, Whoever you see on screen, the first and foremost thing to know is that that's not them,
Mm-hmm.
right? The mistake we make, and I also had to learn from that because I have people that I looked up to in the industry whom I would love to work with or would have loved to work with, some of which I have. But when you meet these people in real life, they are not the characters that you fell in love with when they played them. So so sometimes, and I'm not saying Abeko welcoming and nice, they're just not the character you fell in love with. They are where they are and they're different persons. So we always say don't overestimate your heroes because you might get the shock of your life when you meet them. Others, some people are good at what they do and they don't know or they don't have the skill in as far as transferring it to the next person. Not that they don't want to. Others are good at what they do and they also have that skill to transfer to the next person, like mentoring. But I think in documentary Shana is suga from a person, you know, someone's makeup, for lack of a better word. I mean, for example, I am passionate about skills transfer, skills development. I've always been, passionate about mentorship programs, which is why I'm soon starting my own acting academy so that I'm able to teach the youngsters about things I had to learn on the go. when I got into the industry. So we prepare them for such things. In terms of identifying mentorships, it is unfortunate some of them, it comes with a cost because that's how they make a living as well, you know. But you ask questions, man. What I do when I'm on set, whichever set I'm on, I make sure that I build relationships. Then you are able to find out who does beyond acting. Others are acting coaches, performance coaches. Others are great actors and actresses, and that's enough for them, you know. Others, they are keynote speakers who are hired and paid big monies to come and inspire young people at the likes of AFDA and whatever other whatnots. But I think into mentorship ihambiselana nobudlelwana, you know, desire to have a relationship, and it's
Mm,
easy for you to learn from, you know. I have a relationship with the likes of Uba Ernest Ndovu. I have a relationship with Ubuyile Mdladla. I have a relationship with Uzama Ngobo. They mentor me in this space, but also because I have relationships with them. So when I go for my auditions, these are the people that I would bounce off my audition performances to. They'll be like, okay, take this away, do this, whatever. Okay, approach it this way, and ilula my kamkanjalo. I try as much as I can, you know, to make sure that I'm available on my DMs to answer questions, and try and point people in the right directions, because it's difficult, man, to approach um umuntu ongamazi, whether they're celebrities or not, and then they give you an audience.
mm,
You know, but it's easier when you are somehow exposed to them. You're like, hi, Dr. Q, I'm Kgopotso. I would like to, you know. So it's unfortunate not all of us will be exposed to or would have such privileges, but try, man. Just and sometimes a mentor is not a celebrity, it's somebody that is in your community who does what you want to pursue. You just have to learn the discipline and the crafts. And I'm sure everyone, everywhere, we are blessed with those people. But I guess we just want these ones that are popular. I don't know for what reasons, but yeah, yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Well, I guess it's because everybody has this perception that when for me to be a successful somebody, then I need to be somebody who is well known all over, whereas that's not the case. You
It's
know,
not the
I
case.
know I always make reference to this one guy. He was airing in Toti, I think one of the best actors I've ever seen, actually. Uh, and he was always, it's that guy who was mentioning the term decency quite a lot. He does adverts most of the time, and I think he's a brilliant actor. I've forgotten
Light
what his
skin.
name is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that light skinned dude. I think he's an amazing actor. But you don't
Amazing.
see him, I don't think you see him everywhere, you know? Uh, you mentioned before I ask this question, actually, don't you think it puts you in some sort of risk to accept DMs from the general public? I mean, people do some funny things out there. Don't they ask to meet with you, have coffee with you, and whatnot?
Um, it happens pretty much all the time. Um, it started when I was still very much, you know, behind the radio mic. Uh, like I said, discernment in this case, also as a person, it plays a critical role.
Hmm.
You need to set boundaries and be very clear about them very early on.
Hmm.
Um, um, People should not and can't get more than what you can give,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you have your own life to live. You have other things that you're dealing with. I'm not always smiling because life happens to me like it happens to everyone. But whenever I get a moment to respond to a genuine DM, I don't respond to Abu Hi. Then I
That's
must say hi
frustrating.
back. And you say, how are you? And I'm like, how are you back? That time I'm on set, I feel like it's a bit inconsiderate. I would prefer rather you say, hi, my name is Tonyasani. I'm an upcoming actor. I just want to learn more about yada 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 yada. Give me an idea for me to can know how am I interacting with you? How do I classify you? You know, is this urgent? Is this not type of a thing? But I always set boundaries, and I never give away my number until um kuba nalento ethi okay lona unga, but also it depends on what your requests for my numbers are. Are you calling me because you wanna request certain services from me as an MC, as a acting coach, as a what do you want? You know. But a lot of boy, hi, I like you, which I get a lot. I just simply say thank you and I keep it moving.
Mm, mm.
Keep it moving. Boundaries.
Okay. Boundaries are very important.
Yeah.
Well, when people start doing that, I don't know. I think I'm not very lucky with people DMing me and telling me that they like me. But for the few that have, they know they ended up getting blocked because I hate that. I just like to go crazy on social media and to articulate whatever I articulate, but I don't want people invading my space in that manner.
Yeah.
Um, you talk about building an academy. I think that's quite
Yeah.
fascinating, in fact. And
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you have in mind, but at the back of my mind, I was like, oh, knowing Hubuto, he likes giving back to the community. I see this with the work you do at church. And I, I thought to myself, maybe the target people mainly from the township who in this context we would regard as disadvantaged or previously disadvantaged or less exposed as opposed to your ones that you find in Fenton. So who
Mm.
are you targeting for this project, Hubuto?
So it's not only even just it's media, it's marketing, um, acting.
Mm,
So basically things that I careers which I was blessed enough to pursue. Radio, TV, radio presenting, media, acting, marketing, communications, and stuff. Um, these are things that I've went to school for, qualified in, and stuff. So the target audience or market, rather, in this case, are not only limited to, but my top priority is this group of students that one are not fortunate enough to have funds to go to varsity, for example. Two, it's those students who academically are not as quite excellent as their counterparts or as their peers, but who are more gifted with their hands, creatives, artists, where we expose them to things like radio presenting, but giving them the whole background about the medium of media. Um, a lot of kids have got smartphones, but they don't know what they can do more, with the tools that they have. So we expose them to things like content creation with an intent, with a goal, with an objective. How can you start, be an entrepreneur, for example, with what you have where you are? We give you the skills and skills enough that will get you started and keep you going. But I'm still in the process of also getting accreditation with some bodies there as well, so that they at least are registered at a minimum NQF level 5, so that at least you are able to say, hey, I have a certificate in this, and it's easier for you maybe to also apply for varsity going forward, or to even seek employment and pursue. But the whole point about it all is to make sure that there is no child that is left behind, for whatever reason. And I believe that things like education, man, they should not even have a price tag to them. It's
mm,
like water. It's like basic food, healthcare and stuff. You know, I believe children should have access to education and exposed to a plethora of learning avenues so that they are able to find programs that are best suited for their type of personalities and characters. Not every child will be, I mean, now ngumntana othola ama-distinctions of 6 or 7 and went and pursued creative arts because not every child wants to be Dr. Kwabe who'll have a PhD in something, something. Others really are just gifted with their hands. They just need to know how can I convert my skills into capital and build sustainable have methods that will make it sustainable, not only for me. I mean, if your mind concern is unfortunately it's vexed heavily by unemployment, and it saddens me how many young people go to school with the mentality of wanting employment. But how many young people actually go to school with the mentality of being entrepreneurs? You know, that's where it starts. I believe education should open us up. I mean, look at me. I've for some to some extent I'm excelling in almost every industry I'm in, only because I'm pliable and teachable and I have a good attitude towards learning things that I don't know. So that at least if I'm not a pro at them, I'm a master of them, uwela phezulu type of a thing. And unfortunately this information lies with people who seem to be far from rich. Abantu abaningi then don't know that there are certain other programs that you can be exposed to that won't even cost you a cent. You know, it's yeah. So basically, this academy is one of the many that are there to bridge that grip. I mean that bridge in ensuring that no child is left behind.
Mm. I love that. I love what you're saying about seriously making an investment on your non academic pathways, for lack of a better term.
Mm,
I always tell this to my students that, you know what, it makes little to no sense to me if you don't want to venture as a researcher or academic, but you still want to study and get a master's or PhD. You know, it bothers me quite a lot, and I often say, post getting your degree, go and do something in business, entrepreneurship, do a business administration
yeah,
qualification. That's where you're expanding your horizons. But also,
diversification. Yeah.
economic management sciences is very important because it touches on what you just spoke about, entrepreneurship, um, higher than the other disciplines or faculties, I
Mm.
would say. And then, fun question. Tell me about your favorite uh, shows in South Africa and internationally. Just one locally and one internationally.
My favorite show locally will have to be
And please don't say generations because you're there.
nah. Well, even this one I'm going to mention, I was a part of it. It Deep City.
Deep
Uh,
City.
it's an old show. It's no longer there, so I guess I will go for Skim Sam. Not also because I'm a part of it, but Skim Sam has to also be that.
Okay.
So I'll give you two shows there locally. Internationally, um, I don't want to say Bridgerton because it's quite the obvious. But I want to go more towards the Underground Railroad.
Oh, that's a beautiful one.
Yeah,
Underground Railway, right?
yeah, Underground Railroad. Yeah,
Yeah,
that one.
that was a
Yeah,
beautiful one. I loved it. But what
yeah.
makes you love these two, Skim Sam and Underground Railway? Is there a reason for this?
There's good stories where I believe every story is good. But there's stories for me, Skim Sam in particular, is so current. It reflects the reality, the day-to-day reality in our society. The storylines, I tell you, look, pay attention to that storylining now during elections. They will touch on that. When there's World Cup, Yandondoni, they will have a storyline that speaks to that. When there is GPV in Dondoni, there's a storyline that addresses those. So it's quite educational, informative, and also very entertaining. And I feel like it's one of the few shows in South Africa that really mirrors reality. There's some stories that are good for entertainment, it's glitz and glamours and stuff, but Iskim Sami's storylining is a mirror and a reflection of society, day to day, day to day. The Underground Railroad, not only because Tuson Bedu is the lead actress there, the storylining as well. It shows it's important because it has the American Black history to it. I believe in watching a show and learning, and I believe South Africa is not even telling half of our beautiful, profound stories enough. South Africa's got amazing stories. Shaka Ilembe, the recent one, well researched. The one that is upcoming, King Mujaji, I can't wait to see what's going to happen there. There's Deep City looked like Maikasi, and the issues they were dealing with were really stories that were happening on the ground. There's a lot of stories, Mpetu. If we were to just go to KZN alone, would have content for centuries. Come to Limpopo alone, would have, because every corner of South Africa, there's something that was groundbreaking at some point in history time. So yeah, I mean, I love stories that when I'm listening to or when I'm looking at, I'm able to see the journey of my people and a reflection of my people, and not just, well,
Mhm.
yeah.
I love that. I love what you're saying. And I love relatable content as well. I think for me right now, I'm currently watching a show called Youngins on Showmax. It's a production by Patu. I don't know who else. I saw there's others that he worked
Share the pictures.
with.
I'm obsessed with that show. I'm on episode 40 right now.
I had to write to Patu and I had to be like, you know what? For the first time in so many years, I find a show that I think speaks to real life situations because
I tell
it
you.
covers literally everything that
I
happens in
tell
our
you.
society, especially
Yes.
in the school environment.
Yeah.
you know, I remember I had goosebumps when those kids um, tried acting up against the
I
principal
was watching that episode today. Yeah.
oh, let me not spoil this for you, who was
Very expelled. Yeah.
doing you know what to the other student that eventually passed, and especially
Mm.
and then there was a series of events, and then that boy who's a soccer player, uh, I think he was suspended and had to come back with the father. What was a trigger for me was how that father dealt with the situation and how
Yeah.
he treated that boy, because there were two boys from two different families in my school when I was still growing up who had similar parents. And they both stopped going to school because they just couldn't handle the pressure. Their dads were not supportive. They were always ill treated. They were always just, the
Mm.
things that they would say about those kids in front of us, in front of their mothers, and the mothers would stand there silently. So that was a trigger for me, actually. So I wrote to Patu and I said to him, ever since Old Buddies, I've never seen such an amazing show.
I tell you, it's beautiful.
And I promise you, I used to watch Soul Buddies when I was still in primary school. I think
Yeah.
15 years later, we find this show, and it's quite amazing. I
It's
think
amazing.
if you were to ask me this question, I would say Patu's work and his team, the Youngins, is actually
It's amazing.
uh,
Always amazing.
my number one at the moment in South
It's
Africa.
amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. I've been watching it this entire weekend. But I
Amazing.
oh, it's amazing. Youngins is the best, to tell you. And also, I'm appreciative of the young talent there. My favorite actors would be Uamu, because I've worked with Ubuje in a different production. Two guys, Ukaya and the others. No, 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 no. The goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Um,
He's the one who was
Ukaya.
abused by the dead, right? No, no, no. No, no.
Kaya.
It's the
Kaya.
superstar. It's
The
Kaya, yeah.
Kaya's the one abused by the dad. Usifako is
It's the
is the
goalkeeper.
influencer head. Yes.
Yeah.
I've worked with those ones. But I love the Tumelo character.
Dumelo
He's
is
just
actually everyone's favorite.
he's amazing. He's my favorite. He's my absolute favorite. Yeah, yeah. I don't
He's
know. The
everyone's.
storyline is amazing.
I feel like they're all amazing because Mashati as well. I love Mashati.
Machado is a different color. It's a different person. If you've watched his work from Either River and now,
Yeah,
the
that's where I know
greatest
him from, and he's
name.
grown so
Yeah,
much. I don't
yeah,
want us to make this about youngins, but
yeah.
I will point this out. I will point this out in case Patu sees it. I wish he could have sort of like given us context as to why it was so easy for Mahlati to exist in that space comfortably with what's the guy's name? Remind me, the one you
Tumelo.
just said you liked. Tumelo. Is it Tumelo?
Yes.
Yeah. To be so comfortable around Tumelo when there's usually a stigma against
It's
such
my
people,
yeah,
especially in high school.
yeah.
Anyway, let's move along. Why aren't we having such shows? Why are there no investments in such shows that seriously portray the realities of our beautiful country and Africa at large, by the way? Because there's a lot of content that could be shot throughout Africa, but we don't see that happening. Instead, what you see is, oh, that's the world happening in Nollywood. People throwing lightning at each other, portraying Africa as this witchcraft battlefield.
Man, you know, I think Africa itself and the world is sleeping on Africa in terms of stories.
Hmm.
It is sad because stories like the Black Panther, those are
Yes.
African stories
Hmm.
which took Americans to reproduce. The first Shaka Zulu uh, was from a Western perspective, international productions, and we here. Back then, one would argue and talk about how there has been lack of funding and right. That's why maybe most South African productions did not quite get, you know, an opportunity to tell our stories and whatever. But lately, man, there's different platforms that are existing, and in search of good stories. We do have good stories. We do have good stories, but I feel like we can write even much more better, groundbreaking stories. Look at the Americans and the British people. Bridgerton lately is breaking the streaming
Yeah.
lines, right? But that is British history in terms of how the haves were separated from the have-nots, and their storytelling is compelling. I mean, I slept at 2 a.m. the other day when they released season three because the story is just so beautifully told. We just spoke about the Underground Railroad. We just spoke about different other stories about America because they never forget the beauty and the power of the American history. Once in
Hmm.
a while in South Africa, we'll have a historic story.
Hmm.
Once in a while, you know.
Yeah.
Productions like Unseen, where we saw Gail portraying a role of a maid who had strength. That was one of. I remember I was on set. Yes, Kim Sami no Mam Harriet Manamela, and who plays Makey Maputla, and she said,
No,
"We
that's a
are
nine woman.
and we are starting to tell stories." I will never forget her words. We're talking about the story unseen. We're starting to tell stories. There's a lot of beautiful stories that we are not telling in South Africa, and I believe that
Mm,
the channel multi what's in the DSTV people, the Showmaxes and the Netflixes and SABC needs to get to a point where, let's go back to our histories, man. We've got abantwana youth manje. The fact that they don't know who Brenda Fassie is always breaks my heart. The fact that they don't know who Lev Mathosa is breaks my heart.
mm,
Kupazamile ngoMandoza. There was a show I saw on Showmax about Umandoza, but that's just one of the few treasures that at a certain time in their life, Brenda Fassie, for example, advocated for liberation in her music. Talking about my first black president, there is a story that we can learn from the life of that woman.
mm.
South Africa is rich of stories, Twenty-Sign. I don't know how I can stress this even more. I don't know,
Yeah,
man. It's just that lately the trajectory is going towards things that are, content. I don't know, man. Who said that sex sells? Yes, sure, but is sex the only story we can tell?
yeah,
You
yeah. I
know,
love that. I love that. Um, I feel like there's a lot that could be covered that we are not seeing on television, as you correctly say. I just want to clarify something. When you said make him a butler, and I said that annoying woman, I was talking about the character, not the real.
oh, the real person is amazing. Oh, she's
Yeah,
something else.
but the character is just I don't even know her. But the character is just something else. If you were to tell a story, though, whose story would you like to tell?
The story that is always in my mind is of a guy I don't think a lot of people know. Where I grew up in Mokopane. There's a man who was villainated. He lived the same street as I did. He was turned into a villain and someone who was very scary. Someone who was viewed as rebellious towards the law enforcement officers and but what people don't know about his story, Alex, is um the the law enforcement at the time did an injustice that cost him impilo of a loved one, and instead of granting justice they covered it, and out of anger he went and studied the tactics. He went and studied the force. He worked in the force so as to rebel. But one thing about that man, before they killed him, I experienced. He was my friend's uncle. There was no crime in our community at the time. Ubelalisa community yonke one man.
Mm,
Bekasho by 8 o'clock, it's lights out. Everyone must sleep. Type of a thing. Well, it was scary at the time because if you found a household that had lights on, then you'd have to answer. But Begu safe, um, although Besabega, but I experienced him as an uncle because it was an uncle of a friend of mine. I experienced that tenderness. So people did not understand why was I so free going into that house, into that family, and going to visit my friend Ufrank, whose uncle is the most feared in the community. They don't know the conversations the stories he told us. Even some of what I'm saying, a lot of people I don't think they know that about him. Who would say, why was he that way?
mm,
Um, we just knew him as this monster that made the entire Maholeran go to sleep at 8 o'clock at
mm,
night. The most feared man by the police, even, who died a painful, lonely death. You know,
mm,
they don't know. And it's stories like this where someone is classified a gangster, murderer, a whatever. But nobody actually cares to ask the questions ukuthi ufike kanjani lo muntu la ekhona, yini emphoqelela ukuthi abe lana ekhona, into ezinjalo yabo.
mm,
um so that's what I'm saying. Everywhere la sikhule khona kune-story esizosenza ukuthi si-understand-ane ngcono as people. um Going to Kwamashu, for example, understand ukuthi why kuney'nkabi, why is it so common in the KZN for people to call themselves inkabi, walking around with guns? Kwenzakalani kahle kahle? If we need people that are brave enough to ask those questions and tell those stories, not to perpetuate or to enable those that are doing the wrong. But if we are going to deal away with any societal ills, can we ask the right questions? Can we
yeah.
tell the right stories and listen with intention to understand Uguti, what is Renaissance point of reality? If I'm going to say yours is wrong, did I give myself time to look at life from your point of reality to understand where you are?
Mm.
Uh, we are exposed and surrounded by stories in where we go, in everything we do. Somebody's doing something that is worth telling.
Mm. Wow. Kgopotso, thank you so much for sharing this. As you explain this, at the back of my mind, I'm like, but isn't it that that man violated people's rights? Because everybody has to have that freedom to move. If I
Oh,
want
he
to
did.
step out of my house, if I want to step out of my house at 9 a.m. at 9
Yeah,
p.m., I must not be restricted to do that. But also, there's a good that came with this, the environment was safe. There's a reason why he took that decision and said
yeah,
people must go and isolate themselves post 8
yeah,
p.m. it, I think the way you're articulating it, it was out of love, but there could be more to that story also.
yeah,
It could be that he valued his community so much, such that he saw himself as a protector of the village, of the community.
yeah.
But you are reminding me of Mzuvugile. Mzuvugile is one of my third year students at the Nelson Mandela University. He just started a podcast. In fact, he came to me and said, "You know what, sir? There's a lot of stories to be told out there. I've seen your podcast. It would be amazing if you could have just one show where you interview Ipara, that is somebody who lives on the street, and just cover that. It's real. It's going to give people a new perspective about Abantu that live on the streets, because they are not there
Mm,
by choice, many of them. And there's
mm,
this general perception that people are there, those people are there because they chose to be there, because of drugs, because they didn't want to be with families, and. So I had to politely decline the offer and said, I don't think I would be comfortable doing that, and stated my reasons. And so started his podcast. I was actually watching it as I landed from Zurich yesterday. And oh, what a beautiful show. I was so emotional, Kgopotso. And the way that guy was explaining that the reason why he's where he is because of something that happened in his family, and it made me realize that really there's so much to be told. There's so much that is not covered, that is happening
mm,
right before us, you know.
mm.
And so I hear what you're saying about the gentleman, and I wish we could have such stories being told. And
Yeah.
I think we are almost out of time, but I do have a couple of questions for you.
Go for it.
Similar to the one that I asked you earlier, I want to know who your favorite actor and actress is in South Africa and internationally.
South Africa for me, I've got two. It's only fair you should give me a male and a female, at least. Um, Female favorite actress for me. Oh, there's so many, but I'm gonna go with Florence Masebe.
Is that a female? Lawrence?
Yes, Florence Masebe. If you
Sorry,
watch Skin Some now, she's the current stand-in Meiki Maputa. Um,
did she air anywhere else other than
yeah, if
Skim
you
Sam?
know the show called The Republic, she was
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
the
yes, is
president.
that Zumburani from Mubang?
Yes,
Oh, I love
yes,
her. I love
yes,
her. I love
yes.
her. I love her. I love her.
Ah, my fave. Male favorite actor. Um, okay, I'm gonna leave my pastor out of it because he's my obvious choice, William Zaza, and I will go to Uzolisa Kaluba. He's one of my main. Zolisa Kaluba. I tell you, man, they're phenomenal. Internationally, Denzel Washington. I study him a lot.
Of course.
Um, I study him a lot. I study a lot of his techniques. I study, I study Denzel Washington. Female Viola Davis, no doubt. Any day. Any day.
Okay. The big guys. There is a show, there is a movie where they are husband and wife. A beautiful movie.
Fences.
Yeah, I've forgotten the name of the movie. They've
Fences.
got a son, I think, in that
It's
movie.
fences.
Fences.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful production. And then in terms of producers, who is your favorite producer in South Africa and why are they your favorite producer? What distinguishes them from the other producers? And I think for me, this one is the most important one.
Tabang Moleya. Tabang Moleya is the one of the founders and co-executive producers of Isiriti TV. I've worked. Isiriti TV produced Gomorrah. It produced IAS Stripped. Uh, Currently, it's producing Code 13. That's where I got to work with Ozo Lisa. Tabang is a genius. Tabang, as a producer, as a director, I love the way he tells stories. I love how he creates spaces for new faces. When you are on his set against all the other veteran actors, he will make you feel like a superstar, even if you're just an extra.
Yeah.
Um, 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 he writes phenomenal stories. He produces phenomenal stories that, for me, in my opinion, are a reflection of reality.
Mm.
Gomorrah, need I say more?
Mm.
You know, he's one of the. I tell you, for me, in part two, I mean, it's only fair that you know, but also, South Africa's got amazing producers, man. I'll just mention those two for now because
Let me be generous and say, give me your top four.
top four, great. So it'll be Tabang Mule, it will be part two at Gwendolyn, obviously. But when I mentioned part two, I mentioned his partner as well. Um, it will be who is the what's his name? How do I forget his name? The producer said Bomb Productions. How do I forget his name? I feel so embarrassed. But also Lulu Hela. Um,
Okay.
Bomb Production. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Now we know
What?
they are from Bomb Production. I
The
know
white
it's gonna
man.
bother you. It's gonna bother you. But I forgive you. I forgive you. In the interest of time, though, I'm gonna move on to my second last question, and I want to know, and this is particularly, I think, important for people that are looking into being in the entertainment space. What would you guard against for people tapping into the industry?
Repeat that question.
What would you guard against for people that are tapping into the industry, the newcomers?
The newcomers, in my opinion, should guard against the illusions that comes with being in the industry. The guy's name I was looking for is Angus. Anyway, um,
I know the name. Sounds very familiar.
yeah, yeah, they should guard against the illusions that comes with the industry, particularly coming in for the sake of being famous.
Mm,
Um, that is, the work is real. Um, it's a 16-hour, for example, day worth
mm,
of work. They must come not expecting that when you get a hit on a show, it's going to be that way forever. There is a season of rain and there's a season of drought. But I feel like the new generation should learn from the shortcomings or the lessons of the previous generation. Yoguti, you will have your moment to shine, and
yeah.
that same spotlight will move to someone else who is more relevant and more hip at a time whenever.
Mm,
And while you still have your spotlight on, diversify. Don't
yeah.
be a one-trick pony. Young people should guard against thinking that when you come into the industry, there's money. There's no money there.
Mm,
You can't get rich from being an actor and an actress alone. The struggle economically is real in the industry. Um, kukhale kuze kukhala nabo abo what's this girl's name? This American actress portrayed
Taraj.
Taraji P. Henson. Kukhale kuze kukhale nabo. That's when you know if Americans
Mm,
actors nabo. I mean, I was watching an interview about Trevor Noah and Idris. They, I was like, you still struggle with not at your level. This is how the struggle is real as well. So young people should come into the industry only if they have their end goal well defined. Why do they want to be in the industry?
mm,
Um, um, and pursue it further from there. It's not about the fame. People remember you now and forget you as soon as a new face comes in. It's not about
mm.
the money.
Ooh, ugh, that is so scary. That is very scary what you are mentioning now. I mean, you can be
Yeah,
relevant today, and in the next
on
5 years, you
into the
are a
next.
thing of the
That's the
past.
nature of the
I,
game.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, 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 I was looking at Juke. I know I said I was asking the last question, but it's not. Um, I was looking at Juke. I don't know his real name, but he was Juke in Backstage back in the days.
Backstage, yeah.
I look at Baba Uchwar, and then he acted
You are.
the
Mhm.
Ferguson's
Mhm.
show.
Yes,
Um,
the queen.
Singing within the Queen. You look at where they are now, but also you look at people like Miss Ndaha, what's her name? Vatiswa.
Batista.
Vatiswa Ndaha, Nonambita Mbumlwana. I always hear the stories that they tell about the hardships of the industry as far as money is concerned. And I think that's something that people seriously need to think about. And then you uh, you speak about they mustn't people must not go to the industry thinking that they're going to be famous, thinking about fortune and fame and whatnot. And I'm reminded of Madonna's song, don't Cry for Me Argentina. She goes on to say, and as for fortune and as for fame, I never invited them in. And then she goes on to say, they are illusions and they're not the promises they promise to be. And
Mhm.
I think that is closely related to what you are saying. And seriously, I think this perception that we have about fame and how it brings in easy cash, it has to come to an end, because we see people seriously suffering. I will share my experiences someday with friends, about friends that
Mm.
actually experienced similar things.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, yeah.
It's tough.
And then I think I noted a question down here, but I can't see it now. I've written quite a lot, and I think we've covered just about enough for the day. But what are you looking forward into going into the future? Are there any new changes in addition to the academy that you want to start? Oh, the question that I wanted to ask, by the way, is if you were to ever get support for the academy, what kind of support would you be looking for?
Um,
And now, sorry, and now tied to that, what should we look out for as a closing question?
learning materials, man. Learning materials and resources. Um, pretty much that. Learning materials and resources. You know, we take for granted. I exposed some couple of children within my community to a certain program run by a company called Go for IR. They have this vocational bursary program they're running where they rolled it out to 200 students, anyone across the country who knew about the opportunity to learn about ABR, and, and amongst other things, but pretty much the fourth industrial revolution. Um, and part of the requirements to be part of the program is to have access to the internet and e-laptop. Um, People who speak from a point of privilege, they're like, oh, okay, I can get a laptop, I can get a whatever. But there's a kid somewhere in Kwamashu, there's a kid somewhere in Mokopani who would want to be exposed to such a program, but they don't have access to those things. You know, things like I'm a laptop lately have become a basic needs. I'm not sure
Yeah,
how many of us are aware of that, right? Because a whole lot of learning happens there. I was trained as a journalist for 2 years because I attended my online classes predominantly, you know. So when I talk of learning materials and resources, I'm talking about such things. And what to look for into the future, besides the obvious being on screen, I think this weekend alone, I just made a huge decision that involves closing a chapter of my life and enter into a new one where employment is concerned. I think we'll talk more about that offline. But I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm going for everything that I've always wanted to do, everything that is on my vision faith board. And as far as one is concerned, getting married, pursuing my business interests, giving it attention and time. Like I said, you know, jumping off the employment train and really being a preacher and a practicer of my own sermons, creating job opportunities for a whole lot of young people, particularly. So yeah, man, a lot of that, a lot of that. You should see. I think more than anything, anything that is academic and skills development based, you should see me next to it in the near future, starting effectively from June.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love that. I hope you get to work more with institutions of higher learning and
yeah,
institutions at a primary and secondary scales
yeah,
levels in schools, primary schools, and secondary schools as well, nurturing
yeah,
young talent. It would
yeah,
be lovely to see that. I say this because when I was growing up, the only profession that I was mainly exposed to, coming from farming communities, a farming community, was a teacher, and I knew of a policeman, and I wanted to be a teacher from a very young age. It would be nice to get you guys going. to
Yeah.
communities, especially seriously deprived communities, previously
Yeah.
disadvantaged communities, where there's no
Yeah.
career expos, for
Yeah.
you to just get into those environments and let kids know that there's such
Established
things.
centers. Established
Yes,
centers.
establish
Yeah.
centers and work with
Yeah.
teachers, you know?
Yeah.
We need that. We really, really need that.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this show, Harvest Chronicles. Truly, truly appreciate your presence. I thank you for making your time. I know it's late. It's 21:55 now. Truly appreciate you making time for us and for our listeners and our audience generally. Truly
Yeah.
appreciate it. I
It is
look
much
forward
appreciated.
to hosting you in the future because I know for a fact this is not the last time.
Make sure it's not. I mean, if I wasn't talking to you through this platform, would still be on our 2 hour long conversation. So at least we decided to record this one,
Of
So it's one
course.
of those.
And I got to
It has
know
been an
more
absolute
about
pleasure.
you. We are not just talking about general stuff.
Yeah.
I'm hearing things that I've never heard before, and this for me is just gold. And there's
Thank
more
you so
follow-up
much.
questions offline. Please do expect that.
Most definitely, most definitely. But I'm also proud of you, man. And this is a great platform. I wish you nothing else but growth and an expansion. And whatever the objective with this platform is, may it really reach that, even beyond your wildest dreams. But also, as a person, you're doing so amazing. Keep going. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, myself included. Yeah, man. We need more men like you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I will close off by saying, um, people will forget what you say to them. It's a quote I borrowed from my Angela. People will forget what you say to them. People will forget what you do for them and to them, but they'll never forget how you make them feel.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I'll tie it uh, in my heart.
That's bonge.
Hasta la
Dr.
vista.
Q.